Today I'm going to be talking about Stoicism. So how many of you have actually heard of Stoicism before? Okay. And then I also guarantee that all of you have at least at one point practiced Stoic principles. They will see later. So on the agenda is why should you actually care? What is the Stoic philosophy? How can you be more Stoic? And then what you should read if you want to learn more about it. So this is going to be a very brief overview of some of the key principles in Stoicism. So why would you care? So if you look at some of these quotes, why philosophy in general, not just Stoicism? Philosophy is actually meant to help you in your everyday life. It's not just for like intellectual masturbation. You're actually supposed to use it and to help you solve your own problems. Henry David Thoreau's, to be a philosopher is not merely to have subtle thoughts, nor even to found a school, is to solve some of the problems of life, not only theoretically, but practically. And then so why Stoicism specifically? If you look at Nassim Taleb, he's written quite a few books and considers himself a modern-day philosopher. Stoic will transform fear into prudence, pain into transformations, mistakes into initiation, and desire into undertaking. And those sound like pretty good things, I would hope, and will definitely help you in your everyday life if you apply those principles. Ryan Holiday is one of the more prevalent practitioners of Stoicism. He's written quite a few books. He dropped out of college, and his background's not that far. He's a cool guy, really smart, and believes in Stoicism a lot. And there's also a lot of people who have practiced Stoicism throughout history. If you look on that side, those are people who have directly said that they are big fans of Stoicism. And then on there, these are just a few of the people who have, through their actions, portrayed some of the traits of the Stoics. And so what actually is it? So very, very brief history of it was that it was founded in the early 3rd century BC during the Hellenistic period of philosophy in Athens. Zeno of Citium founded it, and it was the most popular philosophy throughout the Roman Empire until 529 AD, when Justinian I actually closed every single pagan philosophy school if it was at odds with Christianity. And then so it evolved from Cynicism, which itself evolved from Socratism. And unlike other philosophies, like Cynicism, it was actually taught in a public space for the benefit of all. The word Stoicism is actually Latin for short for the painted porch, which is where Zeno first taught all of his Stoic thoughts. And so the three main thought leaders in Stoicism today, which we have surviving works for, are Marcus Aurelius, who was considered the last of the 5 good emperors, and if you don't know, an emperor was literally the most powerful person on earth. He was essentially a dictator. And it's pretty impressive that he didn't let all the power go to his head and was actually able to write such a beautiful piece of literature. And then Epictetus, who started as a Roman slave, and Roman slaves were treated very, very badly, even worse than slaves that we had in America. And he went on to study the Stoic literature and eventually found his own school of philosophy. Then there's Seneca, who was an advisor to Nero, enjoyed great wealth from that, and was also a very prolific Roman writer, statesman, and dramatist, and actually was forced to commit suicide after Nero falsely accused him of trying to kill him. But even when he was dying, he was mostly concerned for his wife and children, how they would deal with his loss. So he was Stoic until the very end. And then now I'm just going to go through a couple key principles of how you can actually be more Stoic and use it in your everyday life. And this quote pretty much sums up the 3 different schools of Stoicism, or 3 different parts of it. Objective judgment now, at this very moment. Unselfish action. Willing acceptance of all external events. And that's all you need. Marcus Aurelius, remember, he's the most powerful person on earth at the time. So if we just take a look at objective judgment first, the bad and good that we think of, if we label an event that is bad or good, that object itself, that event, is not actually bad or good. Only what we perceive it as is bad or good. Marcus Aurelius, again, disturbance only comes from within, from our own perceptions. Epictetus, the slave, said, man is disturbed not by things, but the views that he takes of them. So if you can just understand that your perceptions are actually what's causing the good or bad label, not the actual action. That's very important. And so the second thing is to actually take control of your own emotions. Marcus Aurelius again, choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. So you can choose whether or not to feel a certain emotion. Or, well, you can choose whether or not how you react to a certain emotion. You're going to have that emotion almost no matter what, but you can recognize it and then actually say, where can I go from now? This emotion doesn't have to control me. I can take control of it. The next thing would be to actually alter your perspective. Instead of saying, this event is bad, I don't know what to do from here, you can say that, no, it's actually a good thing. That this quote-unquote bad thing had happened, and I'm able to choose my emotion and be unharmed by it. My ego, my person, my soul is not going to be shattered by what I perceive as being bad in the future, as this could have happened to anyone, but only me or only someone else who is using the Stoic principles is able to have their soul be untouched by this bad action. And then the last thing is to be, is it the last thing? It is not the last thing, but you want to be objective. Charlie Munger very famously said when he was asked, what's the secret to your success? He said, I'm rational. And obviously, you can't be 100% rational all the time. That's impossible for humans. But you can try as hard as you can, and that's better than not trying at all. Physics, ethics, and logic, Marcus Aurelius says, should be applied to everything. And even if you can't be 100% in every single one of those, you should always try to look at things as best you can. And that makes being objective a lot easier if you recognize what I said earlier, that everything is a perception. You're not actually controlled by your emotions. And then there's another Stoic spiritual exercise is what they call it, where you can flip obstacles completely around and turn them into opportunities. So John D. Rockefeller is one person who was incredibly good at this. He was the world's first billionaire and obviously had the first monopoly as well. He always tried to turn the disaster into an opportunity. The very first disaster that he faced was actually as soon as he got his first job and started to be a real investor, his first real job. The market completely crashed. It was the worst financial incident at the time, and he was able to come out of that stronger than everyone else because while everyone else was thinking, this is terrible, this is a bad action, John D. Rockefeller saw it as an opportunity. He flipped the thing around and said, what can I use, how can I use this to my advantage? And he came out with the answer that because he was small, people wouldn't know of him, and he also saw the opportunity that the market would be able to, once it would hit rock bottom, would be able to propel him up to the level of the other big giants where he would actually be able to build his platform from and become the richest man on earth at the time. And then live in the present is the last one. This is not, I don't think, as important as the other one, but it does have some interesting implications. He who suffers more than necessary, who suffers before it is necessary. Basically that says, don't worry about things that are going to happen, that you think are going to happen in the future, whether they're good or bad. Those things don't exist right now and might not exist in the future, so why would you worry about them? And the same with stuff that has happened in the past. If you have bad memories, there's no reason that they should be affecting you poorly now. The only thing you should take from them is the actions that you can take into the future, but you should not be worrying about anything that you think is going to happen in the future or what happened in the past. And then if we move on to the second object, which is unselfish action, you see that the secret to getting ahead is getting started, Mark Twain famously said. So just getting started is always the hardest part. I'm sure all of you will agree with this. Like if you have even something as small as like a homework assignment, you put it off for a really long time, and then once you get started, like first problem's okay, kind of hard, and then the next ones you can just essentially breeze through, assuming they're the same. It's just a psychological block of thinking that the entire thing is going to be as hard as it is to get started. But once you get started, everything is a lot easier. Ryan Holiday, again, said, vent, exhale, take stock, but don't take too long, because you have to get back to work. If you're very stressed, just take a minute, recognize that the feelings are there again, recognize that that's just a perception, and then go into the future with, or go into the present, which was the future, so as thinking that you're stronger for having overcome that obstacle. And then persistence is also one of the major tenets of Stoicism. Resist and persist is a maxim that Epictetus was almost annoyingly, was known for being annoying to say to everyone, his son especially. Apparently his son was like kind of a deadbeat, and he wrote this entire, really long, very scathing letter to him where he said resist and persist probably like 10 times in it. And then there's also a famous quote from Calvin Coolidge, nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. You can't really replace hard work with, hard work can sometimes be replaced by smart work, but if you want to get anything really good done for the world, you are going to have to work hard for it. And even if it's hard, it's supposed to be hard. So you just have to keep going. And then Nick Saban, who is the coach of the Alabama Crimson, which is by and far the most successful college football team of all time. They've won the championships like half of the last 10 years or something. So his entire thing is that you have to focus on the process, that you just have to only focus on what you can do right now. You don't think of what you have to do tomorrow, you don't think of what you have to do at the national championship. All you think of is what you can do in this drill, what you can do in this play, what you can do in this moment. And if you don't focus on the goal, but if you focus on the process, then it'll get you there a lot easier, a lot faster, and a lot better. And then Anne Lamott, this is a kind of a strange place to take a quote from, but she wrote the book Bird by Bird, and that's from this quote, which is where her brother had this 3-month-long research project on birds, and he left it until the very last week, and was like breaking down, didn't know what to do, and her father came by, put his arm around him and said, bird by bird, buddy, just take it bird by bird. And that's just another example of focusing on the process